welcome back to Nick's Ramble ASMR, also known as the Hive. I hope that you are doing very, very well today. Yeah, I thought that this would be a really fun video to make for a couple of reasons. One, I'm always really interested, I don't know about you, but I'm always really interested in people's creative pursuits, their endeavors, and in general, what people learn about things. And I kind of wish I had this video a couple years ago. So I thought, you know, hopefully if there's anyone like me out there that would find this beneficial, I wanted to talk to you guys today in great detail. Feel free to throw this on in the background. You don't even have to listen to all of it, but it's something I'm very passionate about, and I would love to talk to you guys about. Also to maybe catalog this for the past, but for the future, right? I want to talk to you guys about my short film, Flowers, which I shot in October, and I wanted to talk to you guys, give you like in details, kind of like the steps of everything from writing to pre-production to shooting to post-production to all of the pitfalls, all of the high moments, everything that you usually wouldn't see if you just see someone's project. And the reason I want to do that also is because it's what this how Nick's Ramble actually started. I started this space, this why am I forgetting the name of the frickin', it's not this page, this, you know, this channel, thank you, basically on during this film. So yeah, we'll get into it. I want to talk to you guys about it, but I started this channel while I was doing the film, and so it's a big heart. But also, we are almost fully done with the film. I think we'll literally be done this week, hopefully. It just depends if some people, like my colorist and my editor, which I'll get into later on in the video what they're doing right now, if they can finish everything. But yeah, I just thought it'd be cool to kind of tell you guys the whole process, so I also don't forget in the future. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below, have you ever made a film? Do you ever want to make a film? And if so, what would your film be about? I would absolutely love to know that. And it's okay if you don't actually think you're going to make the film, but I would love to know your ideas. Let's talk about what Flowers is. So, if you're new here, and we're just going to go in deep, I'll just be really specific, it's good. So if you're new here, I went to school for acting, and then I basically started screenwriting my last year of acting. I went to NYU Tisch for acting and everything. If you want a full video about that, let me know in the comments. I can do a whole ramble. But I started writing. I started writing screenplays. I actually wrote my first feature that I wrote was, and it took me probably like a year to do, it was called The Goodbye, and it's a bisexual love story about this guy named Jesse, who's in New York City, caught in a rock in a hard place. He finds out his girlfriend cheated on him, and the whole film is him trying to like regain her love. And he moves in with this stranger, this guy, and he ends up realizing that he's more compatible with this man than this girl, and he doesn't know what to do. And the whole climax of the film is, who does he choose? And do you go with who you want to be with, or who you think is more compatible? And what do you lose and gain from, you know, being gay versus being straight in a world that's very homogenous to straight culture and all that? It's very fun. But I wrote that, and I got into the habit of writing, and then I came to LA. Pandemic hit, I came into LA, and I, you know, always kept writing. It's just something I found that I wanted to do. I would write stories and everything, and then something clicked to me. I don't know if this has ever happened to you. But the thing that clicked for me was that I realized I was writing so much and always editing things, and I wanted to reward myself by actually shooting something, to do the full process. So we're getting into the wow, this film became a thing, okay? So this became a thing because I came to LA, I did acting, I did writing, and then I worked in production. There's other videos on this channel, but I was a production assistant. I did COVID, and then I did location scouting and did locations for TV and films like Shameless, The Flight Attendant, and all these other things. And I knew how production worked. And the reason I went into production after acting school was because I wanted to sort of take a break from acting. I was a little exhausted, honestly, between you and I. It was very tiring because I went to a conservatory school, but I also wanted to see if there's anything in entertainment that I would gravitate towards more. I also wanted to know what I didn't know. So I basically went and started being a PA, and I did that in LA. I did New York for a pandemic hit, then I came to LA and I did it for Shameless, and then I got to locations, and I basically discovered how production worked. I learned the in and outs of it, which I'm really grateful for. I learned, how to work on set, how every department works on set, all the roles on a set, basically how something gets shot and done, and what good communication looks like, what bad communication looks like, and how people work off of each other and all of that. I was exhausted with being confined to location scouting and production because I'm a very creative person, and I realized that I wanted to use all the skills I've learned, from being on set, being on production, and I wanted to I want to be the creative, I wanted to be the director. I was always seeing the director on set or seeing the actors, and I was always craving to be them. So I was writing, I write to cathartic, so I don't know how this happened, but I was writing like a love story, and then I basically was like, okay, I'm gonna shoot it. And what happened was, I think I reached out to one of my friends named Martine, who's in New York. He was, when I was at school for acting, he was at school for filmmaking, and I asked his advice on how to do a short film, and I think he said, just crowdfund and you can do it. So this is where we begin. So, okay, well, I'll get to the crowdfunding. So first, I had to pick my script, right? I don't know if you've ever written a short film. The first thing that I've ever learned, so this video will be good because we'll talk about what I learned, right, and what I didn't know before. So something I learned that I didn't realize is that short films are very different than feature films. Not just because of length. So a short film is usually, can be like 5 minutes shorter, or it can be like 12 to 20 minutes. And then a feature is around 90 minutes or 100 or an hour and a half. And that makes sense, right? Like you know that, I know that, but what I didn't realize is the way that you format a script is different as well. I'm used to, and I'll kick out right now, I'm used to a 3-act structure. So you have Act 1, which is basically, you're learning what the stakes of the story are, you're learning what your hero is struggling with, your hero decides to go on this journey, which is the story, and oh my god, we could talk about story all time. There's all these different beats you hit in every film. They hit it. There's the oh my god, I'm blanking on literally all of them. But you have the hero's call to action. You have the catalyst, which like forces your character to it's like the thing that happens that disjoints them from their comfortable world and starts the movie in action. So that's Act 1. Then Act 2 is literally them entering this new world, choosing to go on this adventure, choosing to go face this problem. And Act 2 is when they're in this really uncomfy world. I'll show you guys something right now. So if you've seen my other videos, I have a board behind me that's like a writing board. I have all these note cards, and as you can see here, this is the Dan Harmon story circle. So there's a lot of ways for structure, but as you can tell, it says that you change, what does it say? Oh, you need, go, search, find, take, return, change. This is what a story is. So you have a person that needs something, so they decide to go. That's going into Act 2. So they search for it. They find the thing they were searching for. Think of Dorothy from, oh my god, y'all, I'm literally just, you know the film, Wizard of Oz. Dorothy, you know, she realizes that she needs to go, she goes on this journey, right? And she realizes she needs to go see the wizard. So she goes, she searches, she finds the wizard. She takes what she was supposed to do, but she realizes something along the way. She returns to where she originally came from, changed. So a character, they need something, so they go. And then they search for that thing, they find the thing, they take the thing. It's usually something bad happens. They learn a lesson, they return, and then they apply the lesson to where they initially were. Love story, could go all up into it. Basically, a feature film follows that organic 3-act structure, 2-act structures. Like, it's all of this. It's all the go, search, find, take, and then this part, return, change, is Act 3. A short story. So I wrote my short story according to that structure, and what I learned along the way is that I basically learned that a short film can end on a climax. It can not follow those structures, and I wish I had learned that. But basically, I wrote a short story that was initially called My Best Friend. It is not the film I actually ended up shooting, but this film instead was what I crowdfunded. It focused on 2 friends in 3 different parallel timelines. One when they're in high school, one when they're in college, and one when they're as old men. And the twist of this whole thing, there's a narrator who you realize is the main character, basically telling his story, and he's telling about how he lost his best friend. He's like, I didn't always hate my best friend. We were really close initially, and then you find out that his best friend, what we see is like his best friend coming out in high school as gay. We find out that his best friend was like hitting on the main guy, and the main guy just started to feel really uncomfortable. And then we go to the scene where the main guy, he basically, they're re-meeting up during college, and the narrator is basically spewing all of this stuff, being like, we weren't always that close, like, I don't understand why he liked me. And then what happens is the 2 characters, we see them hug, they touch, and then we get into a memory flashback. We get pulled into this memory of the 2 of them being intimate, to this main character being receptive of this connection, and we hear the narration over it being like, what is happening? Wait, what? No, that's not real. Get out of this, get out of this. And then we pull back into that scene, and we see the main character realize that he's having these feelings, all these suppressed feelings. He realizes it, and the narration begins to disjoint from the actual storyline. So the narration then tries to convince, the whole point of the short stories, and the narration is trying to convince this main character that, you know, his best friend was an asshole, and that he never really cared, or whatever, or like they shouldn't have always been friends, or they were never that close. But as the story continues, you see and learn that it wasn't actually the friend that was in love with the main guy. It was actually the other way around. And it's the story I wanted to, and it ends where we get pulled to the future, and it all takes place on this bench. Pulled to the future where in college, this guy, the main character's waiting, and then the other friend comes with like a girlfriend, and they say they're getting married, and then they leave, and it's this whole growing up, and we realize throughout the whole thing, like, I think he was bi or whatever, we realize that throughout the whole thing that the main character had all these suppressed feelings that he regrets not acknowledging. And it's cool because the climax is the narrator being convinced, the voiceover eventually realizing that, hey, I was wrong, you know, like, this is the truth. And it was all supposed to focus on this idea that there's no right or wrong way to come out, and that coming out is a process, and sometimes it's not as clear until it's too late. And what do you do when it's too late? And basically the idea that our memories aren't who we think they, like, they're not always telling us the truth. The thoughts aren't always telling us the truth. So that was the original concept. Let me know in the comments if you like that concept. I thought it was really cool. What I realized, I wrote it, and the great thing about doing the short film was I started crowdfunding. So my advice to you, if you ever want to do a film or anything, is crowdfund, which I did Indiegogo. But what you're gonna do is just do it. I made like a promo video with my roommate, and we did some of the scenes from the film, and then I did like an interview style, kind of like this, where I was just like talking. I was like, hey guys, my name's Nicholas Ansel, I'm a director, and I was basically like, asking people to donate and stuff, and where we would use the money, and then I just put it out and I sent it to every person I knew for like a month. Every day I would put on a timer for an hour, and I would copy and paste this copy that said, hey, I'm doing a short film if you have any money. It's also during June, so I was like, this queer film, if you want to support it, it'd be a great way to give back to the community. Kind of bullshit, but it is true. I mean, we are queer. I am very queer, and the story is queer, so it's not bullshit, but you know what I mean. And I did that, you guys, for a month, and we had more than 100 people contribute, and our goal was $5,000, and we did it. And I've never been more proud. It was incredible, because you know, you always have this imposter syndrome where you're like, I'm not good enough, no one's gonna believe me, no one's gonna take me seriously, no one's gonna want to donate. And the fact that they did, all based off of consistency, was really rewarding. And yeah, so I did that, and we did that with rewards. Like I did basically, like on each category, you know, you could get a social media shout out for $20, $50. You could get I don't know what $50 was. It was something. $100 was you get a signed poster. You could be a producer. Like you could do that. The most someone donated was $500, and it was funny because it was one of my best friends' moms, who I thought hated me growing up. Not that she hated me, but we kind of like wrecked her house one party, and she, I don't know, I always thought that maybe she, you know, like she liked me, but not, I thought I kind of like left on bad terms, but she's been so supportive, and she was like, I'm so proud of you, Nick, like you're really going after your dreams, and you're really being authentically you, and all this stuff. It was really sweet, considering that I don't really talk to her son that much. He's kind of one of those people, I don't know if you have them in your life, that like just don't reach out, and you need to be in the area to be close with them, which sucks, but they exist. I still love him. It's funny, my original short film, so my best friend was actually based on him a little bit. It was based on the idea, this is where it stemmed from, why I created the film. It stemmed from this idea that I wanted, I always wanted, when I came out as bi, I always wanted someone else to say, hey, me too, I'm also bi, and I also kind of like you. That's what I always wanted. I had a really close relationship with my friends, and looking back, it was just friendship. But when you're queer and or even if you're straight, you know, when you're like around an opposite sex or same sex that you might be attracted to, the lines get so blurred, and when you're young, you get so confused. You're so confused if it's just for, you know, romantic, sexual, or if it's just platonic, and I was just so confused. And I remember I always wished someone would be like, hey, you're not weird, you're not crazy, right? So I kind of wrote what I always wished was the case. And it's not about this guy, I don't really wish it was him, but I also, when I grew up, I don't know how old you are, but people come out. There are a lot of people that I always was into, that I was like, why am I into them? They're so straight, and then they turn out to be bi or queer years later. So that's what this film focused on. So already I crowdfunded for this film called My Best Friend. It is not the film I shot, and let's talk about it. So I got all the funding, and then the next step was to figure out a time to be shooting it. I knew that I wanted to shoot before Thanksgiving in the fall. I got all my crowdfunding last August in 2022. And by the way, this channel started in October 2022. I'll tell you when we started this channel. But we started all the crowdfunding. So the crowdfunding, we got all the money. And then, gosh, what do I do? Yeah, and it was just me. Like, I was just doing it. I was trying to find these deadlines. The really nice thing about deadlines, y'all, and you probably know this, but they force you to get out of your head and give up your ego. I kept really wanting this story to be amazing, and what I did is I eventually, you know, I'm like, once I had money behind it, I'm like, shit, I actually gotta do this. That's why I wanted to crowdfund. It's one thing to like put your own money into it, which I did for post. It kind of went over budget a little bit, but when you have other people relying on you, contributing, it forces you to show up and do the thing you said you'd do, and that is exactly what I did. I set myself up knowing that if I got money from people, it would force me to do it. That's a really good trick too that I learned. If you're anything like me, do something that will force you to do the thing you want to do. Even when you don't want to do it. And so what happened was I wanted this film to be the best it could be. I started sending my script to 2 people that could give me notes. And by the way, up until then, I didn't share any of my writing really with anyone. I was trying to write screenplays, right, but I wouldn't share it. I was so scared to share my art because I knew it sucked, and I didn't want someone to read it and be like, "Oh, you're not worth any of my attention. You're not worth my time." If you've ever done art, let me know if that's ever happened to you. Did you ever feel that where you were so scared to share it with someone? So I started sharing it, this film idea, and I learned a lot. I learned that for my best friend, it was really complicated with the voiceover and everything, and I think I could do it now, but what I learned specifically was we have a short film. You write me for 12 or 15 minutes. My script was around 20 or 30. I would have to cut it down. I tried to do that. So for writing, a page is usually a minute. If formatted correctly, I'll get into that too. My script was not formatted correctly. But I got feedback from this writer, who was actually a writer on Only Murders in the Building. And he told me that, you know, I'm really into time fucking, like very into present and past. We don't know, like Christopher Nolan films, we don't know where we are in time. I love those moments. It's really hard to capture that into a short film. He was saying that, you know, you only have a few minutes to really get the audience attached to understand what this is about. By jumping around so often, it might be really confusing, and you don't have a lot of time for people to kind of get a sense of what's happening. I took that note to heart, which I'm glad I did, but also I think if I were to do it again, I think I could do that film. Let me know if you ever want me to do that short film. I would need money though, so that's a whole other thing, but we'll figure that out, I guess, one day. But I listened to him, and I thought it was really true. I wanted the short film to be simple. I wanted it to be linear, you know, a straightforward story, and so it happened. And what's weird, I learned about my writing style too, is like I would write a draft and then I would read through it and start editing and just keep editing, and I would read through it and keep editing, and the story would keep shifting, and it would keep changing, and it would never feel finalized. And when I was getting down to the wire, where I think I was like in August or something, or September, when I was about to get my producer and everything, I basically kept going in these circles, and I eventually reread some books about structure, and I decided to change it. I changed the story to flowers, and this is what flowers is. So instead of having the high school, college, old man sequence, I instead focused just on the high school aspect. I wanted to focus on this moment of realizing, you know, so I kept a lot of the things. Flowers, the story I did shoot that we're almost done with, is about 2 boys, the same 2 boys that were in the other film. One is gay and one is straight. Eddie's the gay one, and our main character's Josh. The film starts off where Josh, picks up this flower from the ground, and he sees this couple making out, and then he gets encouraged by a soccer friend. He's playing soccer, to give it to this girl across the field. We then, Josh is hesitant, and then we get introduced to Eddie, who's a loner. He's sitting by a tree. Rob, who's Josh's just soccer friend, starts making fun of him, and we see how Josh kind of reacts and kind of shrugs it off. We then follow Josh as he goes home, and basically we learn that him and Eddie actually have a relationship. They have a past. Eddie calls Josh crying, and Josh goes over to Eddie. It's during the weekend, and Eddie basically tells Josh that he he basically came out to his mom and everything. Josh doesn't know what to do. He leaves, and basically leaves Eddie alone. We return to the field, and Josh is with Rob, and Rob keeps making fun of Eddie and stuff, and kind of gets a little too crazy, a little saying how you'll see. And Josh throughout this film is realizing, he's feeling this pressure to go for this girl and stuff, but then he invites Eddie for a sleepover because he gets kicked out of his mom's house and stuff, and they have a sleepover, and they basically reconnect their relationship, and they discuss the idea of love, and this idea that the backstory for Josh and Eddie is that they went to a gardening camp, and they did that over a summer, and I believe, we saw in the film, but I believe that they were friends for a really, for a good couple of summers or whatever. And I have a whole backstory that's not really in the film, but yeah, and basically Josh is feeling all this pressure to kiss this girl, and then Eddie's, they basically have a sleepover, when you sleep over and you just start having deep talks. That's what they talk about love, and Eddie describes love as I think it's how certain flowers grow better when they're together versus not. I believe that love is like that. Everyone's just flowers looking for each other, looking for the best sort. And Eddie's whole thing is you need to find your differences and show them to the world, because if you don't show your differences to people around you, you're not going to allow people to actually love you for you. Love is not fitting in, it's standing out and being different, and showing your differences. So that's the whole Eddie moment. They go to a party together. Josh gets encouraged to kiss this girl, have this intimate moment. Something happens. I'll keep telling the story, and hopefully you'll watch it one day. But and if you don't, feel free to skip a couple minutes, but I'll just keep telling you. So basically they go to the bathroom. Madeline, the girl, they're about to kiss. Josh doesn't do it. Madeline throws up. Josh feels really guilty about it, but then Madeline says thank you so much, because we found out that Madeline is also queer, also gay. They pretend to make out. They leave. Josh finds Eddie outside on the street. They have a moment, very intimate. Then Rob comes and ruins it. Drunk, he dumps all this beer on Eddie. Eddie becomes this symbolic moment of Eddie's supposed to represent a sunflower. He becomes wilted and very overwatered, and ruined, and Josh and Rob have this huge fight, basically Rob indicating that Josh is gay, and that there's this weird queer undertone where Rob was like, kiss me Josh, kiss me, you want to do it to me, not to him. It's very weird. And then who comes to save the day? Madeline. We found out earlier on there's this little Easter egg that Rob is allergic to peanut butter, and there's this whole homogenous world, which I hope when you see it you'll get it. But basically everyone's trying to fit in, and what we realize is that everyone has their differences. It's the whole thing that Eddie's right, everyone has their differences, and Rob says he's allergic to peanut butter. So Madeline throws peanut butter on him. He looks at it. He gets really scared. Madeline holds up an EpiPen and this drop. Rob stole one of Josh's favorite possessions, and she tells him to drop it, and he drops it, runs for the peanut butter, for the EpiPen, leaving Josh alone. Josh goes to Eddie. They have this breakdown. Eddie's like, you don't see it, do you? You know, what he sees. They have a moment of all is lost, and then we show up the next day on the field. Rob is like trying to make amends with Josh, but Josh looks over and sees that Madeline is with her lover, and it encourages Josh to do the same. He rejects Rob. He stands alone. He looks into the sun, and then he turns into flowers. So throughout the film is broken up into, I was really inspired by nature, by flowers, by growth, and I want to formulate the film in that way too. So it's in acts. There's a dirt section, a water, and a sun. It's also colored that way and soundscaped that way, but it's this idea that Josh, the whole film is Josh growing into a flower, blooming. The tagline for the poster is, it's time to bloom. Flowers, it's time to bloom. And Josh blooms into this flower. He turns into daisies. And in Eddie's monologue in the bedroom, he's like, oh yeah, you remember how sunflowers and daisies like go well together, but not roses. So Josh turns into daisies. He looks over to Madeline, who's filled with roses, and the girl is filled with baby's breath. And then he looks over, he undoes, he sees daisies, he looks over to Eddie, and he sees that Eddie is a sunflower. And then Josh smiles, he's in the sun, and he walks over, and then the film ends. Right there, it ends with him walking towards the person that he's supposed to be with. And then credits roll, and then that's gonna be the festival cut. And then the director's cut. I have two other scenes that were in the cut, but the director's cut is the last scene. So we do credits, and then we go to Josh showing up at the tree. He sits down next to Eddie, and Eddie's mad at him, but Josh just sits down, and Eddie gives Josh his prized possession. It was like this flower hat that was ruined when Rob like threw it away outside at night. Instead of giving the same hat, Eddie gives Josh his own hat that he has from like gardening camp. It makes Josh feel really loved, and Josh gives Eddie a flower like we see in the beginning. Eddie looks at it, he then looks at Josh, and then he goes back to reading his book. He goes back to reading his book, and we pull out as Josh is like sitting next to Eddie, not really knowing what to do, and Eddie has his head fall on Josh's shoulder, and then Josh starts to smile, and then we pull out, and they're underneath this really gorgeous tree, and then we pan up to the sky, and that's it. Initially, what I learned from short films, and that's around 20 minutes, the shorter you want your short film, the better. But let me know if I hope you like that. I absolutely adore this film, you guys. It's so, just talking about it, I just hope you know how much love it's filled with. And is it perfect? No. And I learned a lot, and I don't think, I think it's good. We'll see. But I initially had it filmed like the director's cut, and then I learned short films can end on a climax. You don't need the resolve, so that's why the director's cut was like that. So that's the story. We're gonna keep going in chronological order. Hopefully you're not asleep, or hopefully you are asleep yet. So I wrote Flowers. I wrote that. I then hired a producer in September or in August to work with me in October. I went to London in September. The producer helped me get a sound mixer, sound guy, and a costume person, and an art person, art department. Helped me with crafty food on set. Helped me find basically my crew. I set up a time to shoot this thing, which was like the second week of November, before Thanksgiving, and I was still working on my script up until probably shooting, honestly. What you realize when you do the short film is there's always things you can change, but at the end of the day, you get tired and you just gotta let it go. You just gotta let it be what it's gonna be, and you just gotta move on. And that's a blessing, I promise you. Nothing's ever meant to be perfect. I did the whole process. I did Actors Access, so I went online. I took a course for Actors Access. I put out my listing for actors. We got like 200 submissions. I went through all of them. I gave them sides of the script. They did in-person callbacks. I like rented the studio for my friend, videotaped it, had them do callbacks, which like reading chemistry reads, and then I casted it, which was really fun. I've never done any of that, so this was the point of the short film, was also to do things for the first time. I wanted to learn how to delegate. I wanted to learn how the entire process of doing all of this, so that I knew how to do it in the future, and I could learn a lot. We got the cast. We did a whole table read on Zoom, which was really nerve-wracking, you guys. I swear to fucking God, it was so nerve-wracking because the actors never had received the whole script, and so for them to read it, I'm just kind of like, is this a piece of shit? Like, do they think this is terrible? And I never knew, I never knew what they thought. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because they're there to do a job. I did pay them. I made sure to pay the actors. I think it was like $100 a day, which is not a lot, but it's more than, I have a really low budget, and I probably could have done it without paying actors, but I wanted to do that because I thought I would encourage them to really invest into it. I then held rehearsals with every single actor for every single scene, and I gave my main two actors, Eddie and Josh, I paid for their dinner to do a character study. So one of my favorite things as an actor to do is I love diving into character. I love finding backstory. And we used to do this thing in high school where you go on like character dates. So you go as your character and you go as someone else who's another character in your play or your film, and you go out to dinner and you talk as your characters, and you would learn your backstory. You would learn basically your connection, and you would do it without a director, because as a director, I don't need to know what your story is together. What really matters is what I'm trying to create is intimacy and trust, and that works best if I'm not involved. It also gives them some power and some freedom to really explore their characters. As a director, this is the fun thing. I didn't realize what directing actually does. I initially wrote this film thinking I was going to act in it, and I'm so glad I didn't, because it's incredibly hard to act and direct. And the reason is because when you're acting, you are focusing on the very present moment. You're focused on making this person feel something, ignoring everything around you and just doing the emotion and the feeling and the part of the scene. You're not supposed to be analyzing yourself. You're not supposed to be looking at yourself. That's what the director is for. The director is looking through the script and making sure that you're hitting the beats. It was funny. I realized that how important rehearsing was. Some directors really like to do things improv. However, I'm never gonna do that, and here's why. Because improv means basically like you show up and you never rehearse the scene together and you just go for it. People think that you get really fresh takes and moments, and I get that, but what you lose is trust and just an understanding of the scene. Rehearsing, I got to go by beat and focus on their interactions, and obviously they're gonna go 50 or 75%. I don't want the actors going full out on our Zoom rehearsals because they're not together. It's okay to not fully bring it, but it's important to talk about beats and what they might not understand, just dissecting the dialogue and everything. The reason it's important is because when we show up on set, all I'm focusing on is, are we hitting the beats we need to hit? How does camera look? How is sound? How are my actors? How's costumes? I'm focusing that everything is ready and looking good, and I'm basically trusting that the actors know their intentions, know what they're doing, and all of that. And then my role as a director in the moment is to pull things out of them. So it was really fun. What I would do is we'd do a take, and then I would basically be like, okay, now let's try it this way now, where you're feeling really frustrated. You know, you just came from point A. You know, you just came from the house. You're trying to go to this place. Don't give him your a time. Don't. Let's do this take where you don't care. You know, you're just trying to finish this as soon as possible. Or we do another one where I will be like, okay, let's talk about a secret. You know, and I would whisper in their ear, how about this take? You want to hurt him. How are you gonna hurt the other character? Saying the exact same dialogue. Do this to sting. You know, like stab him a little bit with your words. We can do those things. We can play around because we have an already foundation. How the scene begins, how it ends, and they have a time to ruminate their relationship and what they want to get out of the scene. So we still play, but my mind as a director is very on other things. If I was acting, I would have to act and then have to analyze by looking at the not the teleprompters, but the screens, like what the actors were doing, and that's really hard. That's really hard to like. If you've ever acted or you've even taken a video or photo yourself, it's hard to see your acting and not see yourself. It's hard to know you're getting the beats you know without being like, ooh, I look ugly, or ooh, I'm not pretty, or ooh, you know, all this superficial shit. Acting is not pretty, it shouldn't be. So yeah, something I learned was I gave myself all of October off to do the film, to shoot in November, and I learned that there's only so much prep you can do. People aren't free until a couple weeks before, especially if you're not paying them a lot. There's only so much you can work on your script. There's only so much rehearsing you can do. You can overdo it, and it's not worth doing. So yeah, and then what happened was this is when Nick's Ramble started. I started getting props. I started going through this process, and I actually started Nick's Ramble a little bit earlier. I started right when we were doing casting, and one of my very first films, I think it's literally like my first ASMR ramble on this channel. If you listen to it a lot, like the full video, which you should do after this, you'll hear me start talking about how I don't know if I'm going to act in this film or not, and I don't know what the right decision is, and all of that. And that was me going through the process of realizing that, hey, I should maybe just direct this film. That's what's so cool about this channel, is if you go through the videos, you'll see everything in real time. You'll see me coming to terms with feeling stressed, with my producer not being super proactive, but he was good because everything was worked out, but he wasn't. There was only so much you could prep. You'll see we were gonna shoot Saturday, Friday. We were gonna shoot Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We ended up shooting Tuesday as well. As a location manager for work, I did location scouting. I used Peerspace to rent out a room, to rent out a house. We stole some locations outside. You can see all these videos on this channel about all of that. I seriously encourage looking at it if you're even curious. And then they talk about every day of filming and what happened during it. So we filmed, and at the time in my life, when I was doing it, I was like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I had an actor be like, Nick, you're one of my favorite directors ever, which is really, heartwarming, because like I said, I have imposter syndrome. I was like, I don't even think I'm that good of a director, but with him, this is what I learned from acting and directing. The guy that told me that was my favorite actor in the film, and the reason he was is because he trusted me. We had a dialogue where I would be like, hey, try this, and he would just do it. And that's what really good acting is just trusting the director. If you want to act, the way you do really well at acting is, these are my tricks. You make sure you're having fun. You need to find like a way to have fun with the scene. If you're not having fun, you're not emoting, you're not expressing energy enough, and you can have fun crying, all these things, like it should feel fun. That's rule number one. Rule number two is you need to trust. You need to trust the direction. You need to trust that what they say, you'll understand it. And if you don't understand it, they'll help you understand it. And this actor, it was Rob, he did a fabulous job. I hope I did him justice. The lines, the writing in this is very blunt and hardcore, and I'm very proud of it, but I also have learned, I think, a lot about writing through this. It's way more important to show than tell, but, you know, we learned stuff. But he was trusting me. There was another actor, Eddie, who all these actors are really good. I absolutely adore them. They're literally like my children. I freaking will do anything for them, because I care so much about them now. But he was a little more reserved. I would tell him a note, and he would second guess it, and you can feel that throughout the film. And I was watching, and I was like, because I remember when we were filming, I thought he was doing and he did a great job, but I would not have cast him if he was gonna do a bad job. But when we were filming, I realized that when we were filming, I was like, oh, he's doing a great job. He's being very serious, taking everything to heart, like very calculated. Meanwhile, Rob was a little bit more like playful and like really energetic, and I kind of was like, I don't know if he's understanding this. Like, I'm a little nervous because he kept asking so many questions. When I look and actually watch the film, Rob is way more emotive, reactive, present, and Eddie is very more reserved and very pulled back, and his character is that. But there were moments where I was trying to pull it out of him a little bit to really like allow him to be vulnerable on camera, and we didn't see that well. We did in part of it, stuff that I can learn, the way that we set up our day. We had our most intimate close-up crying moment of Eddie, the first shot of the entire film. So it is my fault too. I think next time I know the importance of what scenes need to come in order, we should have done a wide and let him build up emotionally. It's really hard to get to a cathartic place when you start your day out with no prep. So I totally get it. But that was something I learned, which was interesting. So we filmed. It was amazing. I had some friends help out. You know, we got pulled over by the cops. Like, look through all those videos. There's a playlist called The Flowers. My Flowers, my short film. Go check it out. We shoot the whole thing. Very fun. We shoot, you know, I hired people that knew things more than I did. The sound person, I didn't know how to do sound. Camera, I knew nothing about camera. I did DP, producing, budget management. We only went over $200, and that's including that we did an extra day. We shot in my apartment. We shot it here. We shot all outside in different places. We were dead. I was absolutely dead. You can see there's a video on this channel where you can see how totally exhausted I am. I go home for Thanksgiving and for Christmas because I had an ear surgery, and now I'm just gonna touch lightly on these. From this point on, you can see my entire life because I literally ramble about everything from here on to up to now in life. Like, I literally do videos like every day. So check it out. But I basically had an ear surgery, my first surgery ever, and then I came back in January and we started post in January. So post-production, I'll try and do this kind of quick, but it was its own beast. I did not realize how proactive I have to be as a director. Nothing gets done without me telling people to do things, without me setting deadlines, without me giving the okay. I've probably watched the film 70 times, 75 times. I am sick of it. I'm sick of my film. It's true. I'm absolutely sick of it. Do I love it? Yes, but it's like a child that sticks around you forever. I love it so much, but I just don't see it new anymore, right? And that's the honest truth, but I love it. I hired an editor for like $600. Her name was Ellie. She went to school with me. I'd never met her before. We did in-person edits. She took all the footage, made a really long cut, which was 26 minutes. We cut it down to 18, then to 16, then back to 18, and then we picture locked. In like 2 months later, I hired a composer who we were making some music, and then he ghosted me. I had already paid him $200, so that's a whole thing. But then I found better music, so that was good. I hired a sound designer who was kind of green, kind of new, and they took took a really long time to do mix. They were very fast doing mixes, which is like a mix is like a sound mix of like the ambiance. So they were in charge of making like this any sound that you hear in the entire film, ambiance, dialogue, music, not the creation of the music, but the sound, like the levels of sound for it. That's what they were in charge of, and we had to do a lot of mixes because they weren't understanding my notes really. They were new and they didn't understand certain impulses, which is totally fine. I'm so cool with learning with new people because I'm new to this. But they're a wonderful person, absolutely amazing. And the thing I learned about my composer is, who's a friend and is no longer a friend, because it's one thing I totally get to leave a project, but to not ever reach back out when I'm reaching to say, have you finished something when I've paid you, is so disrespectful that in my books it's almost unforgivable. I can come to peace with it, but if I ever see him again or whatever, I will be cordial. Of course, we're all nice here. I'm a nice person, y'all, but I'm never gonna let him back into my life because I deserve to be around way better people that are respectful. Respect is everything. That's what I've been learning with this too, dealing with all these different types of people, respecting their they want to be creative too, and their creative impulses. I think something I could have been better at is being more decisive. Every day my thoughts on the film change, and it is because you watch it so often. You know, I'm like, oh, this is annoying. Oh, why do we have this? And my favorite, the best moments I ever did for this film was when I took like a week off or 2 weeks off, and I rewatched it, and it was very clear what worked and what didn't work. We were supposed to have this whole film done by Pride before June. It is August 1st. It's 2 months delayed. It is okay. It happens. I did not realize how complex sound would be. I did not realize how complex music would be, how complex color would be. Everything had to do multiple revisions. And yeah, it was just a lot. It's been a lot, and I understand why people don't finish short films, because like I said, you're watching this thing over and over again, and thankfully I delegated it out to people, so I'm not like editing it all the time, but you get tired of it. And the only reason I kept going is because there's a reason I made this. I think it could really help people, and it's the love of my life right now. I need to give birth to it. So yeah, and we basically finished the festival cut. Is being finished now. We're literally just like adding on a beat after the title, like flowers. Oh, also I hired someone to do posters, so I had my behind the scenes photographer on set help us do photos for posters, and I have 2 posters of the film, which I'll share with you guys. I had my DP knew a designer, a graphic designer. He created these beautiful posters. We have 2. We have one at night, one at day. I want to know what your favorite is. And yeah, and so next steps right now is finalizing director's cut. No, festival cut. Director's cut has that added end scene, and also we have a school scene I'm gonna send to the actors. But it's basically right now, I sent my editor that note about the title, and then I also sent sound notes for the last scene, just to add music in. My colorist, Miles, talking to him about he's gonna do one more revision for oh my god, I'm writing Mandarin, I forgot I knew Chinese. He's doing the last revision for the last scene, so he should be getting back to me soon with all of that. But yeah, it's been a really cool process, you guys, because I never knew what coloring entailed, I never knew what sound entailed, I never knew what editing entailed, and I've learned it all. And I really recommend you, if you want to make any type of art, just do it, because the whole process is to learn, right? You're gonna learn when you do it what works, what doesn't. And my roommate said something really special to me. I've been really afraid to release this thing because I'm afraid it's gonna suck, that everyone's gonna be like, this is absolute shit, why did I put money into it? It looks terrible. And I wanted to go go places, and my biggest fear is that it's not getting into any festivals. And then my roommate said, Nick, this is your first short film. This is your first real short film. Remember that. This is your first one. This is the first of many. You know, this is, you learned here. It's not going to be perfect. It might not even be that great, but you learned something. That's all that matters. And it relieves so much stress in me because I obviously want this to be good. I obviously want people to feel this movie, but I also know that it's not perfect. I know that, you know, it could be better, as everything, but I'm really excited for you guys to see it. Make sure that you go down below and that you hit that link that says follow my art or something like that. Click it, put your email in it, and I will send you a Vimeo link of the film when it comes out. I will not spam you with anything else. Only future creative projects and maybe potential crowdfunding things if you want to support my next projects and stuff, but there's literally no pressure at all. I just thought it'd be a fun way to stay connected to you guys and for you to stay connected to my art. But yeah, that's where we're at. And then moving forward, we're gonna finalize all that. I think I'm gonna try and do a screening in August with the actors and crew, whoever shows up. You know, I also get afraid I'll like set it up and no one will show up, but that's okay. And basically I want to do that so that I take off the pressure of it having to be in a festival. I was wanting to submit to festivals and then to like invite everyone to a festival, but that's just, I think, not good. Like I said, it might force me to submit to more festivals, which is what I want to do, right? But I also don't want to pressure myself. I don't know. Maybe I'll just wait till September to show the film. Maybe I'll try festival circuit a little bit and then do it. Let me know in the comments what you think I should do, or if I should just show it to everyone, get that out of the way, and then just like on the DL send it out to festivals and see where it goes. I also have to send out posters to people signed, and then we're done. And I will definitely cry. I cried the last night on set because I was so proud of everything and I was so exhausted, and it was just a dream come true, and I know this will be a dream come true too. I'm so incredibly proud of myself. It's really cool to step into the person that you always dreamed about being, right? That you feel like you are an imposter, but the thing is, eventually you're not an imposter anymore. You're always gonna feel like it, but eventually you'll have things under your belt that you can be like, hey, but I actually did this, right? So just know that. But yeah, let me know, is there anything that you have questions about the short film, about your film, about anything? Let me know in the comments, I'll answer it. I hope you found this interesting. I absolutely love talking about this. This is my passion. This is what my whole world has been for the last year, and I'm so happy to have you a part of it. Make sure that you sleep well, and yeah, just if you made it this far, leave an emoji of a flower, of a sunflower, I will know, and I'll give you extra love. And make sure, please, you know, it like help with the algorithm. Like this film, well, like my film, but like this video, subscribe, comment. It means the world. We're always trying to grow this hive, to be around better people and stuff. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and let me know if you have any questions. And I love you, and have a wonderful night, a wonderful day, a wonderful life, and I'll see you around.